Hello. Today I would like to talk about a sport that absolutely drives me nuts. It's called football. I mean American football, not what most Americans would call soccer. The rest of the world calls football. I want to start with the name football. Really annoys me. Football is played with your hands mostly. Your feet do come in contact with the ball, but only during very certain points, such as field goals and punts and whatnot. The rest of the time it's played with your hands. Okay? So, not really played with your feet. Second is, it's not even played with a ball. Ball is a sphere. It's the geometrically, it's where the radius is equal distance, or that the center is equal distance from all edge points. A football is actually something called a prolate spheroid, which geometrically that's an ellipsis and it's rotated about its major axis. So, kind of a ball, kind of it's round in one direction across the, you know, but not a ball. But yeah, some other things about football that annoy me. It's a boring sport to watch. I mean, a lot of people like watching it, and it's our most popular spectator sport. I think the Super Bowl is one of the most watched events every year on television. But I have no idea why. And there's a good reason why I think it's boring to watch. Last week I was watching a football game, Sunday Night Football. They made one play, commercial. Made another play, then they did another one, then it was a commercial. Then they sat around, they were getting in position. Then they made a play, it was a commercial. And then this continued for the entire game. I don't remember how long it went on for, but it went on for quite a while. And I remember being incredibly annoyed by the end of it. You know, football, I can see where it's fun to play, and if you're really into strategy, there's a lot of interesting strategy. But they stand around most of the game. Which is dull. I'm talking about professional football. College football, a little different. They do a lot more plays. But professional football and the NFL and stuff, they just stand. You may get a quarter and a half worth of play, actual play time for 4 quarters worth of game. And that's in the worst cases. Normally it's about 50-50. The reason has to do with the strategy, like modern philosophy on how to win a football game, which involves getting a point lead and then running the clock down. Pretty much your best defense, or your best defense isn't a good offense, it's make your opponent not score. And the best way to make your opponent not score is to not let them play. So if you have possession of the ball, you're going to run that clock down every single play. Which is fine. I mean, it means your team wins, but it also means you're standing around most of the game. And I'd say very commonly some teams get hit quite a bit for delay of game penalties, which are rather annoying. And that's another thing about football that I don't like. There's so many rules. It's not simple. Like it should be simple. You throw the ball, somebody catches it until a touchdown's made, or you run the ball until a touchdown's made. It's pretty dang simple. I can understand some rules that are in there just for keeping the game organized, but there's a lot of rules to that game. Very minor penalties, and the referees have to have some kind of a law degree to keep track of all of them. And of course, the appropriate penalties for all of it and whatnot. And when you consider how many rules there is and how many ways there are penalties, the referees can really throw games really easily. I remember there was a Super Bowl a couple years ago between the Steelers and the Seahawks. Then that was a big stink that the refs had thrown the game in favor of one of the teams. And they could get away with it because the number of rules and stuff, no one can really contradict them. Because there's always another penalty you can throw in there if you really need to get a team to win. But yeah, football, pretty annoying sport, doesn't make sense, and boring to watch. But, that's kind of tragic too, because football has a lot of potential. it's actually quite a strategic game. A lot of plays and stuff like we made, a lot of strategy involved, and complicated maneuvers, and you got enough people, and you have all the elements there for a fun game. You know, you have there's a bit of finesse that's needed. It's an equal parts endurance and strength test. There's violence. Men always like watching violent stuff, more or less. Americans especially into violence. So it goes back to the whole ancient gladiator thing. Survival of the fittest, and then also a game of your mind. You can very strategic game. All these complicated positions and maneuvers can be pulled off. A lot of potential, but I mean, no point to the potential if all you do is stand around running a clock down. That to me is incredibly boring. And it also means that you could theoretically just come into the last quarter of the game, watch how that goes down, and you'll get the same amount of pleasure as if you sat down for the entire game. Or at least in my mind, that's how it works. Now, a lot of sports, popular American sports, are the same way. Basketball is especially bad for that. If you miss half a basketball game, you didn't really miss much of anything. But, yeah, football is quite dull.